Cancer, this reading is for you if you've been carrying a heavy sense of emotional responsibility. Not just the big, obvious problems, but the small, silent ones that stay in your chest and repeat in your mind. You've felt the weight of other people's moods, situations, or expectations, even when you weren't supposed to. You are someone who feels deeply, and because of that depth, even small disruptions can stir you more than others. You've been triggered by subtle things, changes in tone, silence, or behaviors that hint at tension, and you carry them inside like tiny storms. What's shifting now is not the situations around you, it's your relationship to them. You're beginning to notice that one recurring trigger is starting to lose its hold, not because the outside changes, but because your inner system is learning to release control. The first oracle card opening this reading is emotional detachment. For Cancer, emotional detachment is not about being cold or disconnected. It starts in your body and your mind. Earlier, when something small disturbed you, your system reacted immediately. Your chest tightened, your stomach knotted, and your thoughts circled endlessly. You tried to process it logically, but every time you did, the feeling stuck. Replaying words, analyzing tone, and imagining what could have happened kept the trigger alive for hours, or even days. This card shows that you're learning to notice the feeling without merging with it. You feel it, but you no longer act on it automatically. You're creating space between the stimulus and your response. Now, when the same situation arises, you acknowledge it, breathe, and let it pass. That pause is new and powerful. The trigger loses its energy because it no longer has immediate access to your emotional reactions. The second card flowing in is neutral ground. Neutral ground is uncomfortable for you at first. You prefer clarity, right or wrong, safe or unsafe. Uncertainty used to feel like tension rising inside your chest. When triggers appeared, your mind raced to understand, explain, or fix them. This card shows that you are learning to allow situations to simply exist without forcing a conclusion. You're not rushing to solve everything immediately. You're letting life breathe while you observe. That pause is critical. The trigger no longer receives the constant mental attention it used to, so it begins to weaken naturally. Neutral ground doesn't mean passivity. It means you are consciously choosing presence over reaction. And that conscious presence begins to shift your internal energy in a lasting way. The third card is boundary without conflict. Earlier, Cancer, your boundaries often felt messy. You worried about others' reactions, replayed your words, or second-guessed whether you were being fair. That internal debate kept you trapped in emotional loops. This card shows that your boundaries are becoming clearer and quieter. You no longer feel the need to justify your space or explain it endlessly to yourself. You recognize your limit and hold it gently but firmly. Because the boundary exists without conflict, triggers have no reason to persist. They no longer find an opening in your energy. This card is teaching you that strong boundaries don't have to be loud. They can be calm, and calm boundaries last longer and preserve energy. The fourth card anchoring this part is self-trust strengthened. Cancer, part of the trigger's power came from self-doubt. You wondered if your reactions were justified, if your feelings were valid, or if you were too sensitive. That constant questioning kept the energy alive. This card shows that you are beginning to trust your inner judgment. You notice your reactions, feel them fully, and let your intuition guide whether action is needed or not. This self-trust stabilizes your emotional system. It creates a buffer between stimulus and response that the trigger cannot penetrate. When you trust yourself, you stop replaying situations unnecessarily, and the trigger gradually loses its hold. You are learning to honor your inner signals without overthinking. The fifth oracle card is Power Returns to You. Earlier, Cancer, this trigger seemed to control your emotional rhythm. Even when you stayed quiet, your body responded, your chest tightened, your mind ran through what-ifs and scenarios. The trigger had more influence over your energy than you realized. This card shows that the control is shifting back to you, not by forcing a situation or demanding change from others, but by reclaiming your internal awareness. You no longer hand over your emotional steering wheel to the moment. What changed is subtle but profound. You stopped assigning importance to every small signal automatically. You realize that just because a thought appears or a situation stirs discomfort doesn't mean it deserves your energy. Now, when the same situation appears, you notice it, acknowledge it, and move on. The trigger no longer dictates your state. That power returning to you is steady, grounded, and permanent. The sixth card is no emotional hook. This card explains why the trigger is finally weakening. In the past, there was always a hook, an expectation, a small detail, or a hope that the situation would unfold differently. That hook kept pulling your energy back in, even when you consciously tried to stay detached. Now, the hook is gone because you stopped attaching importance to outcomes you cannot control. You no longer need reassurance, acknowledgement, or explanation to feel at peace. Without that hook, the trigger can no longer pull you in repeatedly. Your energy is free because you decided internally that certain situations don't deserve ongoing attention. You've learned that your energy belongs to you, not to every thought or subtle discomfort. That realization alone dissolves a lot of the old tension. The seventh card is calm becomes your default. Cancer, this is not a forced calm. This is a calm your nervous system feels because it no longer needs to stay alert for every minor shift or subtle imbalance. Earlier, silence felt tense. Waiting felt like pressure. Now, quiet moments are neutral or even peaceful. Your body no longer reacts automatically to every small trigger. This card shows that your responses are now measured. You respond when it matters, and you pause when it doesn't. That choice becomes natural over time. Calm is now your baseline. When calm is the default, triggers lose the energy they once fed on. They no longer linger or demand your attention. The eighth and final oracle card is emotional closure. This is where the lesson completes itself. Closure doesn't come from others, explanations, or apologies. It comes from your internal decision that certain patterns, words, or situations no longer deserve your energy. You no longer replay them. You don't analyze or prepare future responses. You simply acknowledge, release, and let go. This closure is permanent because it's rooted in self-respect and trust, not avoidance. You're not running away from the trigger. You've outgrown it. What once stirred your emotions now barely touches them. And that's how you know this phase is over. You've reclaimed your emotional space fully. Affirmation for you: I release what no longer serves my energy. I trust my inner signals without doubt. I allow calm to guide my reactions. I honor my space and let go of what no longer belongs. If you want a personal Cancer reading exploring what you're releasing, what's stabilizing, and what's opening next in your life, sessions start at $9. For ongoing deeper guidance, the $99 monthly membership provides clarity and emotional support. Cancer, this shift is happening because you're ready to reclaim your emotional and mental space fully.